Well, I have made one video on Vic Mignogna, and I normally don't like going back to the well twice, but this unpersoning, dehumaning might be the most disgusting thing I've ever seen, ever, period. And there are a lot of people who are covering this very well. Umbrella Guy, Yellow Flash, Just Pause, I think his name is. Lots of better YouTubers who are more familiar with the anime community. But you have told me overwhelmingly that you want an update on this. So if you can, please remember to hit that thumbs up button on this video. I know it's bad news, but helping spread, because make no mistake, I stand with Vic. What happened to Vic was disgusting, was pre-planned, was a op, was not backed by any legal precedent, was a complete unpersoning of, well, someone who doesn't have the right ideas, perhaps someone that is a little conservative leaning, perhaps someone that's religious. I don't know what their reason was for it, but the people around this and the beginning of AnimeGate have proved themselves to be absolutely insane. We're talking about people who are threatening to call Homeland Security over mean tweets. I'm not kidding. We're talking about anime conventions having complete meltdowns on Twitter, threatening to arrest their patrons. I'm not kidding. This might be the most insane case I've ever seen of anything, ever. Now, I don't have everything in front of me. To go over it all would take hours, but I'm going to show you where we're at today and some of the most hilariously insane things that have happened over the past few days. Now, I absolutely believe that Vic had probably crossed the line before, that Vic had probably got a little too friendly. This is something he's admitted. This is something I've covered in my previous videos. I do not believe that these people are genuinely upset about it. I do not believe that he should have been fired by Funimation and Rooster Teeth. Both companies should be ashamed of themselves. I do not believe in the validity of this investigation ran by Funimation. Now, Funimation and Rooster Teeth do not owe the public necessarily any particulars of their, quote, investigations, but I would ask you to consider this. In the face of the public smearing of Vic, in the face of all of the allegations that are also public, when a company like Funimation, like Anime News Network, like Rooster Teeth, decide to terminate somebody and say, after an investigation, we terminated them, in a way that's passively applying credence to the accusations. Wouldn't you say? From a PR perspective, from a reputation perspective, by firing somebody with all these public accusations swirling, you're providing some credibility to the claims. Now, what I would have liked to see is Funimation and or Rooster Teeth, if they felt like terminating Vic, to do it quietly and not feel like they needed to make a public statement about it. Damaging. And if you're not going to tell us what part of the investigation or what in particular was the reason you terminated this guy, I have to believe that you have no evidence. As far as I know, nobody's called the police on Vic. There's been no criminal charges. And now you might say, and you would be right, an employer doesn't have to wait for somebody to break the law to terminate somebody. And that's true. But the way that everybody's acting around this, the absolute insanity, the absolute overzealous, over-the-top reactions to anybody questioning whether or not this is true. I've seen people get banned from Twitter for supporting Vic with this I Stand With Vic hashtag. I've seen some of the most insane reactions. It's like, boy, if he really was a monster, how come you're freaking out so much? Now, yesterday, Vic, and I've reached out to Vic. I don't expect him to reply. It's probably not his best interest to come on the show. But for those of you who want to know, I have invited him on the show. If he's really pursuing any legal advice, then he's probably not going to come. Vic has lost. He posted yesterday, "My desire has always been to show appreciation, warmth, acceptance, and fans to of my work. Being part of the community has given both my work and my life so much meaning. If anyone has been made uncomfortable by me, it's not for me to contradict them. It's impossible for me to discern another person's personal boundaries. I regret anything I've said or done out of ignorance that has put anyone outside of their comfort zone. I love my work dearly, and as well as the characters I've had the privilege to portray. The most satisfying of all has been the opportunity to share that I love this art form with fans around the world. I would never have met any of you without it. Meeting each and one of you and every one of you has enriched my life, and I'm humbled to have received over 1,000 encouraging messages in the last weeks. To my colleagues, I have considered you good friends for so many years. We've shared countless wonderful experiences together, and I never meant to do anything to offend or hurt you. Until these last few weeks, I had no idea that any animosity existed. I had never had anything but respect for you, and so I deeply regret any words or actions that I have made any one of you feel otherwise. That's the thing, right? If Vic was out of bounds, nobody's ever said anything to him, and you'll see this insane person, in my opinion, Monica Reel, who was just partying with Vic, but also is one of his accusers. Just a few days later, all of a sudden, he's the worst thing on the planet. And this is a pretty boilerplate apology, but finally, please be kind to one another. The very last thing I want for anyone to be hatefully targeted, especially not on my behalf. Very classy. Now, Vic, you had nothing to apologize for. Nothing. All right? And when you see how some of these morons are acting, you talk about having people's press passes removed for standing with Vic. That is something that happened. Pensacon 2019, quote, inclusive convention threatens arrests for Vic Mignogna supporters who show up. You might think to yourself, what? Yep, it's true. It's so hilarious that the convention itself deleted their Twitter account after this. However, we have, of course, archives and screenshots. The first threat came via tweet on February 12th, which was a response to someone publicly trying to get supporters to meet up and attend Pensacon. Now, this is an anime convention in Pensacola, Florida. To which the convention replied, yes, please do. We would love to have some folks arrested. Now, they were talking about people who would like wear t-shirts that say, I stand with Vic. I don't know what crime that is, but again, this is how these insane people act. They would also threaten that anyone who even brings up the issues of Vic Mignogna would be asked to leave or escorted off the premises by police. Anyone who harasses her at Pensacon will be arrested. Okay, fine. You have been warned. Anyone who brings up the issue will be asked to leave. If they do not, law enforcement, who will be on hand, will take over. That is not what the convention is about. You can see the screenshots, obviously. I never said I was going. No, but the people you are encouraging to do so and harass a guest will be arrested. Mark our words. This is a warning. Heed it. The person replies, I'm not encouraging any form of harassment that would imply physically harming anyone. The one thing I'm encouraging is for people to speak up and tell the truth. Let me ask, did you see any evidence? Are you blindly trusting the guest because it's a woman? If anyone brings it up, they will be escorted off to police. Pensacon 2019 has deleted this. Very well, but I have just one question. How do you find my initial posts? I didn't even at you in any of them. They replied, we have eyes everywhere. Insane. There's videos above of Mignogna who have been asking to see evidence from Funimation's investigation have been met with indignation, and the anti-Vic groups who have claimed the people aren't entitled to see any evidence. Regardless of Funimation's own investigation, there still doesn't appear to be any formal police reports filed against Mignogna for any sort of criminal or uncivil behavior. Certain YouTubers have also recounted allegations made against Mignogna between 2004 and 2014 to see if they were legitimate or held any weight. You can see below, courtesy of DanFan29. However, Pensacon, like digital apparition hovering around Vic Mignogna supporters as some sort of ill-tempered omen, called the potential attendees, quote, sad and delusional. These people are sad and delusional. Goodbye. We'll be watching. Keep that in mind if you plan to attend Pensacon between February 22nd and February 24th. Showing any open support for Vic Mignogna or attempting to ask guests about the allegations will net you a night in the slammer. Obviously, you wouldn't be going to jail as you are not breaking any law. All right. This is how the people are acting around this. It makes you really wonder, doesn't it? Here we have Monica Real, one of the people at the center of the accusation, someone who also directly benefited from Vic's firing. Replying to people, remember when I told you she was insane? Thanks for the tweet. I've screenshot it and sent it to my attorney and law enforcement. I will not be harassed. How about this? Homeland Security. Literally. This thread is one of the most hilarious things I've ever read in my life. There were multiple investigations with testimony, proof, evidence. Okay, so have you noticed with these people who seem to be pushing this narrative? And look, look, if I'm wrong, okay, I will accept that. I will publish a video and say, wow, I've seen the evidence. This guy is really a scummy guy. I withdraw my support. But I have seen nothing. And you notice that the people who keep pushing this keep using words like testimony. What we really have are people saying stuff on Twitter and Facebook. Testimony hasn't happened. They use that word as a fake way to bring up, like, add validity to it, like it was done in the court of law. There's been no testimony. There's been no legal depositions. It's just been hearsay. Don't confuse my silence for fear. I'm taking the advice of my lawyer and the authorities and staying off Twitter. Yeah, and then you immediately reply, there were multiple investigations with testimony, proof, evidence. Apparently Monica knows everything and we know nothing. We've seen nothing. I've seen nothing. There's one hilarious guy who I believe also was a gentleman who put a camera or recorded inside of a woman's bathroom at an airport, if I'm remembering the right guy, who said that Vic assaulted the back of his neck with his bulge. You know what he really did? He jumped on his shoulders to hype up a crowd. And it didn't look to me that he was not a part of it. He leaned down, said something in his ear, then jumped on his shoulders. 6 months or years later, he says he was assaulted by Vic's bulge. This is the level of evidence we've seen against Vic Mignogna, but people don't want to hear it. And maybe there is a silver bullet out there. Okay, maybe there is, but I've seen nothing. I've seen nothing. I've seen some people say, oh, you kissed me on the cheek and that made me feel uncomfortable. Okay, why not just say, all right, like, Vic, you know, I know you didn't know that it was offending people. I know you didn't mean anything by it, but, like, let's just not hug anybody anymore. Problem solved. Instead, they unperson him. They provide no evidence. And I'm telling you that this is like, I mean, AnimeGate is real. You have these idiots talking about calling Homeland Security over tweets. And again, tweets that aren't even threatening anything real. Just calling you, asking for evidence, right? This is also a Funimation employee, by the way. Somebody who stands to gain. Somebody who uses the old SJW adage. Freedom of speech does not equal freedom from consequence. Before you choose to harass me, and according to her, harassing is simply asking for evidence. And by the way, Monica, you inserted yourself into this conversation. You didn't have to talk about anything publicly, did you? You're a public figure. If you are going to issue claims, it is our right to ask you for evidence. All right? Nobody said you had to say dick on Twitter. All right? So you're not a victim. Sorry. You're not a victim. You're a victim of your own stupidity if you thought that you could make claims like this publicly and then expect people to not ask you for evidence. It's absurd. And again, do not confuse my silence for fear. Yeah, she's so woke, just baiting all those retweets. I don't know. I mean, in the light of all of this, we lost. Vic lost. Here Monica is kissing a fan, probably against their will. The same thing Vic does. Monica is somebody who's hung out with Vic days before all of a sudden proclaiming he's a monster. We have anime conventions continuing to tacitly passively agree with basically this specter that Vic is an absolute monster by banning him and having complete meltdowns. The thing is, and I talked about this earlier in my video on the copyright strike business, if you're not guilty, if you really have evidence, you're not acting like it. You're acting like a crazy person. You're acting like somebody who's going way over the top because they know they're caught lying. They're acting like a 5-year-old who got stuck, like caught shoplifting some candy. I didn't do it. What are you, crazy? Oh, call the cops. Go ahead. You're acting like somebody who is taking part in this, this op to get rid of Vic. I've seen no evidence, nothing that would point to this guy being the monster that these people are painting him to, and certainly nothing pointing to the fact leading to his probable unemployment for, a very long period of time, I imagine. Can't see him ever working for Funimation or Rooster Teeth or ever doing any Dragon Ball voices again. Seems highly unlikely. Maybe he should have just proclaimed that he's choosing now to live his life as a gay man. I'm sorry, Vic. You still have my support. Truth and justice lost here. There's a reason that this didn't get taken to the court of law, is because they never would have won there. That's why they took it to the court of public opinion. People without facts expect you to listen and believe. If there were facts, we would have seen them by now. There's absolutely zero benefit. Think about this. There's zero benefit to holding back the facts that prove Vic Mignogna is some sort of animal, right? There is zero reason to hold that back. So why would they? If he's such a monster, why wouldn't you put out the irrefutable evidence that has led you to do this to the man? That's the question you should be asking yourselves when you decide if you ever support Rooster Teeth or Funimation or any of these other conventions that have treated him like such. If there's such irrefutable evidence, where the hell is it?